Lifter failures, baby, a term very synonymous with the Hemi engine, also known as the Hemi tick. It is a very well documented and reported issue that unfortunately some 6.4 Hemis do experience. Welcome back, fellas. I'm Alex, and today we're talking about 5 issues or things that I don't like about this 6.4 Hemi. As I like to say, we're venturing on the dark side, getting off the Rainbow Express on this heavy hitting, or maybe not so heavy hitting 6.4 Hemi. Last week we talked all about the things I liked about this 6.4 Hemi, and no engine is perfect. This engine does have some character flaws, which we will be diving into. However, I did also tow with this engine and run a fuel economy loop, and it was borderline impressive. So before we venture down this dark rabbit hole with the 6.4 Hemi, we have to remember there are certainly some pros and benefits to this engine. Jumping right into it, and I do own a 6.4 Hemi, so I'm not just spreading hate. The first thing that I despise about the 6.4 Hemi is the fact that it comes with cylinder deactivation technology, or the MDS system. Essentially, when this engine is not meeting its full torque load, it shuts down 4 cylinders, cylinder 1, cylinder 4, cylinder 6, and cylinder 7. For example, when we're in the city, like we were on our fuel economy loop, we saw that the MDS system did kick in. You can see eco mode means that we are in 4-cylinder mode. Cylinder deactivation technology makes some sense on the lighter duty 1500 engines, because, well, fuel economy is more highly sought after, and fuel economy has to be officially reported. However, these 2500 heavy-duty trucks are exempt from having to report fuel economy to the consumers. So I just don't really know why Ram went ahead and put the MDS system in this heavy-duty engine as well. In fact, no other manufacturer put cylinder deactivation technology on any of their heavy-duty gasoline engines. Only Ram did that. GM, who we know loves their dynamic as well as active fuel management on their V8 engines, even their 4-cylinder turbo max engine has active fuel management, but they did not put it on their 6.6 liter L8T heavy duty gas engine. Ford, same thing, both the 6.8 as well as the 7.3 liter Godzilla do not have cylinder deactivation technology, and it makes those engines simpler, which is very important for the heavy duty segment. I've been on record once or twice saying that simplicity usually leads to reliability, and that's exactly what we want out of an HD gas engine. A simple, tried and true V8 engine design, and adding cylinder deactivation technology just adds more complexity and more potential failure points for very minimal benefits, in my opinion. I mean, realistically, who cares about fuel economy on a heavy-duty gas engine? These engines should be built with durability, strength, and service life as the priority, not fuel economy. The MDS system did kick on a little bit more, especially when we were in the city on our fuel economy loop, but we still finished our city section with like 12 miles per gallon. I imagine that the MDS system helps Ram lower the emissions of this engine in a lab perhaps, but I would have to think in the real world, the actual fuel savings is probably very minimal, and I would have loved to have seen Ram just ditch the cylinder deactivation technology, keep this engine nice and simple, and I don't think I'm alone. Lifter failures, baby, a term very synonymous with the Hemi engine, also known as the Hemi tick. It is a very well documented and reported issue that unfortunately some 6.4 Hemis do experience. The lifter failures seem to stem from the roller needle bearings failing, and then essentially the roller more or less smashes into the camshaft lobe as the lobe is rotating pretty quickly in the engine, eventually taking out the camshaft and the lifter with it. It is a pretty nasty problem. It spreads metal all through the engine, and it is a timely and costly repair to fix. So this right here is a roller lifter. It's actually out of a 6.7 liter Cummins, and this roller rolls over the cam lobe, pushes up on the push rod, and it's what opens your valve. And the needle bearings underneath this roller here on the Hemi engines, for whatever reason, seem to fail, and then you get some play on this roller and it gets all smashed up by the camshaft and eats the camshaft. Nasty business. But that's what we're talking about. I am of the belief that the MDS system does not impact or cause lifter failures. Non-MDS lifters fail all the time on these engines, but there is some debate on that. What does seem to cause or impact lifter failures on these engines is extended idle time, as well as extended oil change intervals, or just poor engine maintenance. And that does seem to have an impact on these lifter failures. The best thing you can do for these Hemi engines is use high quality oil and change your oil on a timely manner. Speaking of which, if you guys are looking for oil, you can become one of my preferred customers at amsoil.com and get 25% off your first purchase. That link will be down below in the description. It does seem like one of the primary causes of these lifter failures is a lack of lubrication. So when we're idling these engines, the oil pressure is not really that great. Therefore, our lifter rollers don't necessarily get an adequate amount of oil. That's why engines with high idle hours tend to see more of these failures. My advice would be to limit your idle time and change your oil with high quality oil on a timely manner. That's what I do with my 6.4 Hemi. If you're still worried, you can put a high volume oil pump on your engine, and some people have had good success with that. Either way, lifter failures are a very well documented problem with these 6.4 Hemis, and certainly if you're looking to buy one, you should be aware of it. If you're looking to buy a used 6.4 Hemi, make sure you check that idle time. You don't really want to buy a Hemi with high idle hours. The next thing that I don't really like about this 6.4 Hemi is that it is old. This engine made its debut in 2014 and has not been updated since. We're coming on to its 12th year of production. So not only is it the oldest engine in the HD truck segment, it's also the smallest and the least powerful. This engine is only making 405 horsepower, 429 pound-feet of torque. I will say we did pull 14,000 pounds with this truck and engine, and it was pretty competitive with the 6.6 liter heavy-duty engine from GM at least. But I still think Ram may need to address this engine to keep it competitive. Looking at like the 7.3 liter Godzilla, it is better than this engine in just about every manner. So I find it hard that this 12-year-old engine is really going to be pulling buyers in to this platform. I've touched on this a couple times in this series, but I really think a lot of people are looking to ditch the more expensive, less reliable diesel engines and are looking to these heavy-duty gas engines to get the job done. And I think Ram needs a better answer than this 12-year-old 6.4 Hemi. Sure, it'll get the job done. We saw that on our towing loop. But I really think Ram needs to update this engine because currently it is sitting at the bottom of just about every metric. The next issue that has plagued the Hemi name for years now is exhaust manifold leaks, or the exhaust manifold studs on the back cylinders snapping off, causing exhaust manifold leaks. And it is a very annoying sound. If you've heard it, you know exactly what I mean. It sort of sounds like a lifter tick, but it's that tick, 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 tick every time the truck starts up. And it's not a fatal problem, which is why it's sort of lower on this list, but it is very annoying. The good news is that the 6.4 liter Hemi is less likely to have this problem. First of all, because the exhaust manifolds are actually a little bit thicker, meaning that they're gonna warp less under heat, as well as cooling down a little bit slower, so it's just gonna put less stress on the exhaust manifold studs. Secondly, although the exhaust manifold bolts or studs are dimensionally the same on both the 5.7 liter Hemi as well as the 6.4, the metallurgy on the 6.4 is said to be slightly different and more heat resistant, so these engines should be less vulnerable to exhaust manifold leaks, but it is still a well-documented problem. The last thing I don't like, or what I would have loved to have seen with the 6.4 Hemi, is fully forged connecting rods. Currently we have powdered metal connecting rods, but we do have a forged crankshaft, so that in combination with fully forged connecting rods would give this bottom end incredible strength. Connecting rods in an internal combustion engine deal with the highest amount of stress, and I would have loved to have seen forged connecting rods. I guess this is more on the wish list side of things. It's not the end of the world. The powdered metal connecting rods seem to work just fine in stock form, but the 6.6 liter LAT from GM in their HD trucks, they do have fully forged connecting rods, and it just would have been nice to see those implemented in this engine as well. Lastly, the bonus thing I don't like about these 6.4 Hemis is the transmissions that they were paired with. Between 2014 and 2018, the 66 RFE, it was not the best transmission, to put it lightly. It was often overheating when under load. The 2 to 3 shift was a big gear ratio and oftentimes couldn't shift, and so you were left sort of in a non-optimal engine operating condition, especially when towing. These transmissions had valve body problems, solenoid problems, and ultimately, if you can find a 6.4 Hemi that's a 2019 or above with the ZF8 speed, I think it is worth the extra money because, as I've mentioned in this series already, the ZF8 speed, in my opinion, is a fantastic transmission. Well, fellas, as a diesel mechanic, as an owner of a 6.4 Hemi, those are the 5 things that I don't like about this engine. Let me know if I've missed anything. Always like hearing what you guys have to say. Real world owners, let me know if you own one of these engines and what you think about it. If you did like the video, don't forget to leave that thumbs up. And if you like cool stuff like this, don't forget to subscribe. If you want to help support the channel, you can become one of my preferred AMSOIL customers and get 25% off your first purchase. That link will be down below in the description. Enough of me. We'll see you on the next freaking video.